Hello, welcome to the MWNMCAP Head Start and Early Head Start Education Training Series. This video will cover PBIS, the pyramid model. The learning objective for this video is to have a broad understanding of PBIS, the pyramid model, and to know where to go for resources regarding the pyramid model. All of the resources that we talk about today are available to you. Resources for the pyramid model are available through the Pyramid Model Consortium at pyramidmodel.org, through the National Center for Pyramid Model Innovations at challengingbehaviors.edu, and on ECLIC by searching Pyramid Model. The MWNMCAP PBIS policy is located in the Education Procedures and Forms book, Education Procedures and Forms folder on the drive, and on the agency website under Education Forms. If you'd like more information about where to find resources, don't forget to watch the video Locating Resources in the Training Series. Within 6 months of hire, every education team member must complete the Pyramid Emodules 1 and 2, as indicated on the education training checklist. This is important. This video is an overview of Pyramid Model, but the Emodules give every staff member a chance to really interact with the Pyramid Model information and to have a more in-depth understanding of the Pyramid Model. So briefly, what is the pyramid model? Well, the pyramid model is part of a PBIS framework. PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And just to clarify what that means, really, PBIS is a shared belief that we have that as adults, we teach and model the positive behavior that we want children to exhibit, and that we have a plan for interventions and supports that effectively address any challenging behavior that we identify. There are 3 tiers to the pyramid model and a foundation that makes up the framework. The foundation of the pyramid model consists of really our effective workforce. This is referring to you and I and all of our education team members that really make up that important foundation for the pyramid model and the work that we do with behavior. The foundational piece of the pyramid model is an understanding that all of our staff are well trained in the pyramid model and in strategies for addressing challenging behavior and for promoting the really positive behavior that we like to see in classrooms, and also that our staff are supported. So again, that foundation of effective workforce is a really important component of the pyramid model. The first tier of the pyramid model, called Tier 1, is responsive environments and relationships. Tier 1 really refers to all of the things that we see in classrooms every day that are geared toward really promoting the behavior that we want to see children engaging in. The idea behind Tier 1 is that we are really teaching and modeling that positive behavior that we want children to engage in. This includes things like our classroom expectations. So our expectations are clearly defined. So we have things like team agreements for indoor and outdoor. And that children understand and our teams understand what those things mean, and that those expectations are modeled by all of the adults that interact with children. This particular Tier 1 also refers to our routines and our procedures in our classrooms that encourage that positive behavior that we want to see. And these are things like schedules, visual schedules, and timers that we might use to give children advanced notice of transitions. So tier 1 are really those classroom supports, classroom routines and procedures. And when implemented as indicated by the pyramid model, should address or prevent most challenging behavior. An example of a tier 1 support is our agency-wide team expectations of be a friend, be a worker, and be safe that are posted in every classroom. This is agency-wide expectations that are not only posted but are taught to children. So what does it mean to be a friend? And what does it mean to be a worker? What behaviors might we see that indicate that we're working hard? And what does it mean to be safe? And so those behavior expectations are taught and modeled in our classrooms and across our agency. Tier 2 refers to targeted social emotional supports. And so these are supports that you would see in a classroom where some challenging behaviors are presenting themselves. And so here you might see the mental health manager or a teaching team identify some teaching skills, some activities and strategies for individual children or small groups of children to address some areas of concern. An example of this might be to put together a small group of kids who maybe have some concerns with sharing, and to use a social story and a sharing activity to help promote that skill within a small group of students. So again, targeted social emotional supports refer to these specific teaching of skills to small groups or individual groups of children. This is still done at a classroom level, maybe with the support of the coach, the mental health manager, but managed within the classroom. Tier 3 refers to intensive interventions. And so tier 3 really refers to challenging behaviors that are persistent and in this case haven't changed, or there hasn't been any response to strategies that have been implemented in the classroom. So these are more intensive interventions put together by the service coordination team in coordination with a mental health manager, with maybe the local education agency. And here the teaching team comes together with the service coordination or as part of the service coordination team to talk about data, to look at maybe what's causing behaviors or what's triggering behaviors, and to really develop targeted interventions for individual children. And so this is a much more intensive intervention. Now that we've just overviewed or reviewed the 3 tiers in the pyramid model, let's take a look at the agency procedure or the PBIS procedure for the pyramid model. This is procedure 13.02 in your education forms folder on the drive. Procedure 1302 is the program-wide positive behavior interventions and supports procedure. And this procedure really clarifies what our agency process is for PBIS and what exactly first is identified as challenging behavior. How is that defined? And what is our process for responding to that behavior? The first section of this procedure goes through the 3 levels of the pyramid model or 3 tiers of the pyramid model that we just discussed. The second section talks about programmatic supports for children exhibiting tier 2 and tier 3 behaviors. And so this includes the steps that teachers take when teaching teams identify persistent challenging behaviors. And these steps include really creating that behavior incident report that is sent to the center director. Once the center director receives that behavior incident report, the center director forwards that information to all the parties that need to be involved in the decision-making process, including the child development coach, maybe the mental health manager, certainly family community services, and indicates that as soon as the teaching team is concerned with a persistent behavior, that they begin to utilize that intervention log to note exactly what they're doing in the classroom to try and address those behaviors so that that can be used as data. The next part of Procedure 13.02 talks about all of the key features of our program-wide PBIS. The first one is that expectations are defined, and we talked about this as part of Tier 1. And just to reiterate, again, expectations being defined is our understanding that we teach the rules and we teach the behaviors that we expect to see or like to see, and that we model those behaviors. So we're clearly teaching those, we're modeling them, and that we have a plan. For number 2, that we have a plan for responding to children's appropriate and challenging behavior. So what is it that we do first to recognize when children exhibit appropriate behavior, so that we're making sure to call out kids whenever they do something really awesome, and to really acknowledge them and encourage them whenever they engage in behavior that we want to see them engaging in. Also, how we respond to those challenging behaviors. And so this number 2 goes through the process that we use for that. The third key feature is organized and predictable environments. And again, this is addressed in Tier 1 of the pyramid model. And so how we are scheduling our classrooms, the types of schedules that we use to help children be able to predict their day, and also the transitions and the signals that we use to transition are an important piece of predictable environments. The fourth key feature is monitoring and decision making. And so again, how decisions are made for staffing and for service coordination meetings. The fifth key feature is really family involvement. And so this key feature involves how we include families in our PBIS system, how we encourage families to be a part of this system, and how we explain what PBIS is using our handbook, how families understand our discipline and suspension expulsion policies, and how we include families in the classroom or in the center as part of their children's development to encourage that family involvement and an understanding of really positive behavior. The sixth key feature is management, and so this feature discusses what our teams are made up of and which parties make up our teams for service coordination. And the seventh key feature of PBIS is our program support, and this key feature talks about or discusses what training we use, what types of observations we use in order to collect data. So just a real quick recap of what we've talked about in this PBIS overview. First, PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. The pyramid model is the framework that we use at Midwest New Mexico CAP for PBIS. And the pyramid model has 3 tiers of environmental and teaching interventions and supports. Tier 1 being classroom-wide supports, Tier 2 being targeted interventions, social emotional interventions, and Tier 3 being those intensive supports. Our team agreements, our agency-wide agreements, are to be a friend, be a worker, and be safe. And finally, we discussed Procedure 13.02, which is an overview of PBIS and an outline of the steps that the classroom teacher takes if a child is exhibiting persistent or challenging behavior. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Don't forget to take the knowledge check. The link to the knowledge check is listed below in the description box.